Eulogy, Thursday. Chapter 1. Nina had an ingenue's instinct for makeup, lighting, and blocking. She knew how to angle her head for best effect. I would come upon her lurking in front of a mirror, in our apartment of many mirrors, framed and bare among the photographs and playbills in various lights. She would swivel her shoulders, then muss the veil of her hair to shade her damaged features. "Don't sneak up on me," she would snap, stiffening, though not averting her gaze, pretending to adjust the frame or swipe at a speck on the glassy surface when at last she noticed me. Now we were facing off, Nina and I, in a still, daring silence, the apartment's first faint sunbeams frozen in her glare, her face bared toward me, her eyes, sometimes springs of dancing emerald light, muddied with anger or hate or hurt. I should be able to tell. "You have no time for me anymore," she said, her breath bittered by sleep and coffee, implying it was my fault, and it might well have been. I looped and tucked my tie in one deft motion. "I've hardly slept." This was not the time for that argument. A dull ache behind my eyes seemed to wake with me every morning, a sleep deficit no amount of compressed coffee or Adderall could ever replenish. I buttoned down my collar flaps and slid the knot to my throat. "You can go if you want." Her voice cut. "Go where? To work? To hell?" Her left hand flew up as though she were swatting at the hum of a mosquito, or, more likely, wiping me from her sight. A faint pinch of the skin in the corner of her better eye, an arched eyebrow, and it seemed like there should be nothing more important in all the world than deciphering the meaning flickering across her face. Was she being serious? Was she being sarcastic, accusatory, dismissive, ironic? This was not the first time I'd found myself at a loss before her. At that moment, the rest of the world, the Park Avenue traffic outside our window, the solemn radio news, the past, our future, seemed to hinge on how she would resolve whatever feelings were roiling her. I couldn't look away. I dared not respond, betray my practiced neutrality. Then, with the electronic chirping of the home phone, the landline no one we knew used anymore, the moment evaporated, her words still bristling in the morning air, I started, and with a look she dared me to ignore it. "Joshua, son?" My father's voice surprised me. At first I didn't recognize it. Maybe it was the context. I hadn't spoken to him in years. Frailer than I remembered, more tentative, it seemed to limp down the wires. My mother had been taken to the hospital, then allowed to return home. There was no hope. "It wasn't what she wanted," he said. "She wants to be here at home, to go." Hospice had been summoned. He hated to bother me, he said, but would I care to see her one last time? She really would like to say goodbye. I raced through my calendar for the next 2 days. "I might be able to get away this afternoon," I said on the exhale, rolling my eyes at Nina. It would be difficult at best, but I could push some things around, others aside. I was resigned to this, guilted into another obligation. "I'll have Abby, she's my associate, call you with the flight details." "Nina, I have to go. It's Mother." I stared down at the cradled phone. "She's in extremis." "It's just like her to pull a stunt like this," she said, the sting still in her voice, her eyes lasering precise holes in the back of my neck. "What did you say?" Not sure I was meant to hear, then sure. "What about Saturday night?" her exasperation growing. "My show." "There's never a good time," I said. "For death, I mean." I realized as I said it how facile it sounded. I haven't seen them in like 10 years, maybe since the wedding. Had it been that long? "Dad thinks this will be my only chance to say goodbye. I need to go. I owe her that. I'll be back in time, I promise." "As if this weekend weren't bad enough already," she said. "If we don't get this grant, we might have to shut gambling down." She turned and hunched her back, clasping her arms across her breast as if to shield something vital. "Like I have time for this," I muttered. nearly ripping the seams of my jacket as I whipped it through my arms and over my head. I've got that hearing tomorrow afternoon as well. Look, I know I told you things would ease up a bit after the crash last year, and I really thought they would. But if anything, it's worse now. Clients are trying to salvage what they can in this economy, and that means bringing people like me in to sort things out. Don't patronize me, Jay. Sorry. I'll get the earliest flight I can today, go down and get this over with, say my goodbyes or whatever, and be back tomorrow first thing. I promise. I stepped across the space that separated us, caressed the soft points of her shoulders, and pressed my lips to the crown of her head. Her body was still warm from sleep, and its heat radiated down, settling in the fork of my thighs. Tingling. This isn't over? It was a question. She turned and seemed to nod, sliding back a strand of liquid black hair to reveal the puckered, discolored skin that was the left side of her face. She looked up only as far as my chin. Do what you have to, she said, patting the lapels of my jacket, respecting them. It wasn't.